Welcome back. Today I want to talk a little bit about welding, and I want to talk specifically about TIG welding. And why I decided to do a video on this is because the company reached out by the name of Arccaptain, and they sent me the TIG 20P ACDC inverter welder. And a lot of you guys may have already seen some of these Arccaptain welders. They're what they would call a budget or a low-end welder, and I guess they kind of target people that maybe beginner welders, beginner TIG welders, and this also can do stick welding. But I'm here to tell you that there is no such thing as a beginner TIG welder. When I got this, started looking into TIG welding, and I'm going to say about 20 years ago, I tried my hand at TIG welding. I tried it for about 5 minutes, and I went, no way, this is too difficult. There's too much going on. There's too many things to think about. But since they've reached out to me, I wanted to give this a try again. I don't think I gave it enough of an effort back then. I am pretty much self-taught at MIG welding. So everything that I've ever done in here, the projects and all that I've done, have been done with my MIG welder. And I wanted to try to do TIG. One particular reason for trying to do TIG is it's a much cleaner weld. You don't have the weld spatter, you don't have the mess to clean up and all that. And one other thing that TIG welding in this particular ACDC welder is, and that's not the rock band either, that's AC for alternate current and DC for direct current. The other thing is that AC TIG can do aluminum. This particular model here can do aluminum welding, and that's really what I wanted to try. But as I'm slowly learning, you can't pick up a TIG welder and just start welding like you can with a MIG or a stick welder. So let's get this thing unboxed, show you what all's in it, and I want to explain where my frustrations or my lack of knowledge for TIG welding, and what some of you guys that might be hesitant in trying TIG welding, how to even get started. This video, we're not going to be doing any welding. I just want to discuss everything that goes into even getting started to think about welding. So let's go ahead and get this unboxed, show you what's in there, and some of the things that I've found out. All right, so I saved you guys the trouble of unboxing all of this and unwrapping everything that is sent from Arccaptain. And I want to explain after the fact of when you unbox all this and you're looking at it and you're like, okay, now what? Because that's where I was. I got it all unboxed. I'm looking at everything. I know nothing about TIG welding, and I'm thinking, okay, now what? I mean, I know that this is my ground wire, and it comes with it. So we've got the ground. We've got the stick or stinger for stick welding. We've got the gas line that you hook up to the back of this for gas. And some of you might be thinking the same thing I was. What kind of gas? What do you need? I didn't have any idea. I didn't know. I know what you use for MIG. On my particular welder over there for MIG welding, it's 2575 mix gas. With the argon. And then what I've come to find out with this is it is 100% argon, and that's for welding stainless, mild steel, or aluminum. I didn't know that. I honestly had to ask, and I did a ton of research, looking, searching, trying to find out what and where and how everything hooked up before I even get into the actual practicing of welding. So, like I said, they've got the ground clamp. You can do stick welding. That presents an issue, or not an issue, but a question in itself is, okay, where do you plug this in? Which port do you plug it in on there? So you got to look into that. We've got the gas line. One nice thing that this does come with is it comes with a regulator valve. So that hooks into your gas bottle. And again, that's 100% argon, which I didn't know at the time. It comes with, whether you want to use 240 or 120 volt plug. So one nice thing that they did is is they've got their 240 plug on here, and if you want to adapt it down to 120, you can. So you put that on there, and the tab's a little bit off, but so you put that on there, plug it into your 110. So you can use this on 110, but I prefer to do any of my welding on the 240 volt single phase. So that's what we're going to do is when we get into doing the welding, it'll be that. This thing, I will, unless I have to take this unit somewhere that does not have 240, probably will never use that. So we'll set this aside. It comes with a little wire brush and a little tap hammer for knocking off your slag or whatever. People that are starting out, yeah, you can use it. It comes with a bag. It's got your different gas shielding cups. It comes with your different electrode holders and things like that. And let me explain something to you with this. Your gas shielding cups, there's numbers on there. I have no idea what those numbers mean. No idea what they do. No idea what the purpose of them was. As far as these the cullets and everything that go in here, I had no idea where they went, how they worked, how they crimped, and how they closed down. But they all go with the TIG welding torch. So you've got this torch. It plugs in to the unit here. You've got this for the gas plug on it. And then this is for the hand switch here. That's basically your on and off for welding with your torch. Arccaptain does have a foot pedal. You can get that separately. I didn't get it with this setup. At some point, maybe I would like to get one, but I don't know how to weld with this yet. So the foot pedal acts as one more thing that you got to learn to do when you're welding. It's kind of like rubbing your belly and patting your head at the same time. When you're doing the TIG welding, you got to be able to feed your filler rod. You got to be able to give it the gas pedal for increase and decrease your voltage and things like that. So we're going to start off simple when we get into that aspect of it. But now I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about the overwhelming feeling I felt when I got this all out and I went, now what do I do? How do I hook it up? How do I set it up? How do I even get started? So I did what anybody would do. I went to YouTube. I looked it up. I tried to figure out, where do I begin? And what I noticed overwhelmingly with all of the Arccaptain videos that were out there, whether they're for TIG welding, stick welding, MIG welding, things like that. Now I know how to MIG, so I wasn't really looking into that. But what I found with all the videos on TIG welding was these were all guys that Arccaptain sent machines to, and they basically just did a video on what their thoughts were on the Arccaptain welder, TIG welder. And I'm watching all these videos going, well, how did they know what type of gas to use? How did they know what electrodes to use? How did they know what shield gas cups to use? And I'm still at that stage trying to figure all this out. So as I've gone through 20 to 30 videos on YouTube, trying to piece it all together with my notepad, my piece of paper, trying to figure all that out, I still had questions. So fortunately enough, I went to our local welding supply and I asked Chris over there, I said, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing here. Can you help me? And he said, absolutely, we'll give you a hand. So one thing neat or nice about this Arccaptain welder is on the side, and see if we can't zoom in on this. This setup guide or setup chart is pretty handy to have. For me, I looked at this and could tell, okay, this must mean something. This must mean that I need different things here to make this all work. So what I did was showed Chris over there that chart, and he says, oh yeah, that's, you know, pretty standard stuff. And to me, nothing's standard. Again, I don't know anything about this. So after going through some of this, I actually went and did the research, and for mild steel, stainless, or aluminum, you put the ground clamp on the positive side and the torch on the negative side. Does that mean anything to you or I? No, not yet. But we've got a positive and a negative, and it does make a difference. And this is your gas out and your on off for your torch, where that would plug in. So all of these go into the front of the machine, unless you're going to use the foot pedal, then you don't put this in there. So you just don't know these things right off the get-go when you start doing all this. So come to find out, when you have your ground lead, and why I wrote that on the side, so the ground is on the positive side, which is over here. So you put that in, twist lock it, and then your torch goes on the negative side. I had no idea. I mean, what would happen if you put them on the wrong sides? I don't know. But with TIG welding, there is a requirement for doing that. The other thing is when you weld aluminum, you have to go into the program of this and tell it that you want it to be AC TIG. And when you do steel, mild steel or stainless steel, it is DC TIG. Again, DC being direct current. Why there's a difference, why it has to be one or the other, I don't have any idea. I haven't gotten into that portion of it yet. I don't understand or know why, but that's what it is. And really, there's no one that tells you, there's nothing in the instructions that is, I guess, like a big shining star that says, hey, this is where it needs to be. And then when you stick weld, the ground clamp is on the negative, which is opposite of all the other welding, and the stick is on the positive, and stick or stinger. So this then, and if you're stick welding, the ground goes on the other side, and the stinger or the wire, the rod holder, goes on this side. So there was a whole bunch of things that was like, man, this is just confusing. So when we get down now to figuring all this out, I actually have got my 100% argon bottle. I had an old welding cart from my old welder, my old MIG welder, so I'm going to use that for this Arccaptain on here, and I'm going to go ahead and get this set up on here, and I guess start to get ready, or start to get to a position where I feel comfortable even just turning the thing on to have an understanding of what I'm doing. I went ahead and put the welder on the cart, hooked it up to the bottle through the flow meter that they provide, which is actually kind of nice. Arccaptain provides this flow meter with this particular setup. They also sent some gloves with it, and they sell gloves, they sell welding helmets, they sell the pedal for these, they sell MIG welders, they sell plasma cutters, they sell all kinds of stuff. Arccaptain is a welding, fabricating type of company. So they've got a lot of stuff that you and I as fabricators can get started for a lower cost. And that's what's nice about these, is they are, you know, much lower cost. I'm not going to say it's cheap. I've never run it, don't have any idea, but all of the reviews I've seen say that this Arccaptain is a pretty fabulous little unit here. So I'm hoping that I can get in and learn to weld and have that determination on my own. Right now, I've just got to take everybody's word for it that it is a good little unit. I don't know any difference. So when I start welding with it, I wouldn't know if this was a good one or a bad one. I just know that this is all I've got to learn with. I still had questions even after looking at the instructions. So that's why I contacted Chris, and we went over and we talked about this. So I actually labeled that on the side of the machine, because if you don't do it a lot, you may end up forgetting. Rotate it, and it's a twist lock. And then this is the gas feed for that. And this is pretty self-explanatory here. This line wouldn't reach anywhere else. And because I don't have a foot pedal with this, I'm going to be using the thumb switch on that. So push it in and it snaps. To get it out, pull the collar back and it comes back off. Pretty simple setup, so I kind of like that. And I would recommend, if you do get one of these, to look into some kind of cart for it. And now I need my ground clamp. And just like MIG welding, you've got your MIG gun, and then you've got a ground clamp on the other side of that. but you don't have this, this guess as whether it's TIG positive, TIG negative on where that gets hooked up, because you physically can put that backwards. I don't know why, and I'm hoping that maybe some of you experts out there that do understand TIG welding way better than I do could tell me what would happen if you put the torch on the positive side and the ground on the negative side. Anytime you do some welding, you have to have your ground clamp on your steel or on your bench, as long as you're getting continuity through it. So now I'm almost there. Then it comes to this whole torch thing. The stuff that comes with, or the components that go with the torch here. And again, the hours and hours I spent trying to figure all this out, because I literally was a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit nervous, and because I just didn't know, and I'm not the kind of guy that wants to experiment and then mess up. So that's why I took it over and asked an expert and said, hey, tell me what we do here. So now we've got these different cup sizes. And how do you know which one to use? Well, I don't. No clue. But I know that these cups are for the shielding gas. I know these cullets are for the different size electrodes that you would use. And it's kind of neat that Arccaptain actually sent me a piece of tungsten. I had no idea how this all worked. So again, I had to ask. But you take the tungsten and you get the correct size cullet for it. So you screw this into here. And again, all the reviews say, do it real lightly. No need to tighten it real tight. And this tungsten is gray. And to me, that didn't mean a thing either until I started looking at this chart and asking some questions. And I still don't know what a gray tungsten or a green or a red or whatever does. You have choices. I don't know what choice makes it better or worse for doing the welding process that you would be looking into doing, but that's what we're going to find out together in later videos. They give a tungsten diameter down here of 1/16 of an inch or 1.6 millimeters, 3/32 or 2.4 millimeters. That's really all that's on the chart here for the tungsten diameters. Now that I got my glasses on, it says it up here, 1/16. This one here says 1/8 or 3.2 millimeters, 3/32 or 2.4 millimeters. So then the cullet goes in the back of that. You can't probably see that color real well. Let me see if I can grab another one that has color on it. And we'll talk a little bit about this drawer here and what I went and got for doing some aluminum and stuff. But you can see on these tungstens that that's a red and that's a green. What do they mean? Well, they mean absolutely nothing to me other than this chart tells me that that's what I'm supposed to use on certain specific steels or metals or aluminums. Put that down in there. And the shielding cup is going to go on for whatever one you decide or pick. And there's some things I've learned about these cups, but they all have a number on them. This one's got a 5 on it. Came with a number 4, a number 5, and a number 6. And again, over on this chart, it gives you a guideline or a reference as to what cup to use for what process you're doing. If it's 1/8 inch, if it's 3/32 tungsten, if it's aluminum, if it's stainless, if it's mild steel, and so on. So now I've got that in there, and now you put this end cap cover on here. And I learned that for this long one, it's because your tungsten's long. When that starts wearing out and as you grind your angles on these and everything else for doing your stuff, then it shortens. But if you're in a very tight area, you can now put the shorter one on. I had no idea that they both did the same thing. But if you have the shorter one on, and I'll just pull that out for now, now you can get into tighter spots if you're down in something trying to reach or whatever. So it was kind of interesting to learn that these really were just for tighter applications or smaller areas. Screw that on the back there. It's got a little O-ring. That keeps the gas going out forward on that. And one thing that the professional over there, the friend of mine, said is, you know, this is not actually a bad torch. It's a WP-26, which is a very common torch for the US here. It's not a European model, and it's not hard to get parts for. When I went over there, he literally had all kinds of parts. As a matter of fact, this bag, he had bigger torch cups. He had a longer one for longer tungstens, and he had 2 specific cullets for these size tungstens that I bought from him, and we'll talk about these in a minute. One's for stainless and one's for aluminum. But so now we've got this set up to start TIG welding, and I also knew from years ago that you need to sharpen the end of that, and I asked, well, how do you know what angle to put on that? And he says, well, we would just go over here and zip it off and do that. So any of you professionals out there, maybe you could put in a comment what angle and how sharp that's supposed to be. And I know for aluminum, they really don't sharpen them too much. It stays kind of a ball, but on stainless and mild steel, they sharpen that down to a sharp point. And the other thing that I had no idea of is how far you have your tungsten stick out. So these are all things that I'm trying to learn and figure out as I go. So I've got everything here set up. The argon, 100% argon's hooked up. The torch is all set up. I won't be needing these at the moment because of whatever type of steel we're going to be doing. But when I make my first video on actually welding this, I'm going to go and try and do one of the harder materials. I'm going to try and do aluminum. And with that, one thing that you also, when you get into this, that you don't know you need is you need samples of aluminum. You need what they call coupons. And I didn't know that until I watched a handful of videos and everybody's saying, well, get your coupons in practice. And really all they are is just little pieces of aluminum. And it's literally just for practice welding. If you want to weld a T-joint here, you want to weld an overlap, you want to weld a butt, you want to just do practice welding without filler rod and all that. That's why you buy coupons, and it's just to practice with. Because I don't have a lot of aluminum laying around, a lot of good clean aluminum. And then one thing that I want to do is, I found this on Amazon also, and it's a practice welding device where you weld up end welds and butt welds and all that. But it's a dice when you're done, and it also comes with additional pieces that you can weld together. So once we get to a point where I think I know how my setting should be and where I'm feeling comfortable with the practicing on these coupons or these scrap pieces, why then we can go ahead and try to weld up that die and see how that works. I do want to go ahead and talk about some of these other things that Chris went over with me that was very handy to know. So everything I got was 3/32. This is what I got from him. And the 3/32, as you look at this chart, let me throw my glasses back on again real quick. As you look at this chart, everything on here is very helpful. So as I'm looking at this chart, and if I'm going to be welding aluminum, it gives me a material thickness. It starts out at 1/25, 1/16, 3/32, 1/8, and 3/16. And it's very similar with the steel and the stainless steel. They go over here and they tell you what function selection. So aluminum is all AC, steel and stainless is all DC. And again, with the material thickness, the amperage roughly where you should be, pulse, which I'm not sure yet I understand. The waveform selection, aluminum is square wave. Doing my research, there's a way to set that up on the controller. And then it tells you what tungsten color, which I had no idea that there was specific colors for different materials. Aluminum is calling for either a green or a purple tungsten, and apparently it has something to do with the purities of that tungsten. So I got 2 greens, which Chris recommended over there for any of the aluminum, and then for doing any steel or stainless, I got the red tungsten, and it can be used for steel or stainless. And then it goes through the tungsten diameter, the filler metal. That's another thing. I had no idea. How do you know what metals to get or what filler rod to get? But the neat thing on here is if you're welding aluminum, it says your filler metal should be 4043 for the aluminum. So while I was there, I picked up some 4043 filler rod. That's the aluminum looking stuff in here. And then for the regular mild steel, this gold rod was a ER70S-2 was the filler rod for that. So just getting this, I didn't even know what filler rod I needed and all that. So it tells you on here, but you've got to go to a welding supply place, whoever would have that, and pick some of that up so you can start practicing. And that's very similar with the stick welding too. So I picked up a couple bags of filler rod for stick welding to get that done. So I guess this video, like I said, is more to let anybody that's interested or wants to know about TIG welding and think that, okay, I'm just going to go out and buy a cheap TIG welder and get started. Well, I hate to tell you, if you've never TIG welded, there's no such thing as beginning welding or a beginner TIG welder. You've got to have some kind of background or knowledge as to what you need, or you've got to have some friends or people that have done this. And I found that a lot of the videos that I've watched were people that were very proficient at TIG welding, and they didn't really discuss in their videos this stuff that I'm going over as a 100% beginner, what I needed. And it was overwhelming. So that's where I want to thank Chris over there, that he sat down with me and said, okay, these are the things you need. And from that point on, now I should be able to start messing around with the settings and come up with something to get to a point where I can actually run a puddle down some of these coupons for practice. So I guess that's where we're at with that. And we're going to go ahead and move on to getting this thing set up in later videos and start practicing. I think that's going to be about all we're going to be going over with this. I do want to thank Arccaptain for sending me their TIG 200P ACDC inverter welder. Do I have an opinion on this? No, I haven't turned it on, and I wouldn't have a good opinion of it even after I turned it on and started learning to weld, because this is my very first time for figuring this out. So the nice thing is, like I said, it didn't cost a whole lot of money to get started or get involved in it. So I want to thank Arccaptain for sending that and all the stuff that I got with it, and it is enough to get me going and give this a try to see if TIG welding is really something I want to do. Now I know that I do want to do aluminum, and I would like to try stainless. If I'm going to do regular mild steel welding, for the majority I'm going to do it on my MIG, unless it's super thin, then I know that I can do it on this. But I guess stick around for more videos when I actually get into trying to figure out how to set this thing up to do conventional regular welding with it. So if you like the video, give me that thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stop back in once in a while and see how bad I actually weld with this thing. And if you've got any tips for me, I guess drop them in the comments. Thanks, and we'll see you again soon.